There's a expression that a lot of times people use and still use, which I always find it fascinating because it's so, unto itself, is so dated and so old. That this notion that the time heals all wounds, and I think really it's what I've learned over time is that it's what you do with that space, it's what you do with that time, and how you work with that time that often will reveal itself to be the blessings, to be the glory, to be the opportunity. That the healing happens with the energy and the effort that you put towards it, not just simply because there's a passage of time. You may become indifferent over time on some levels, but things seem to kind of stick with us. They seem to always just kind of be sitting on the sidelines. I often hear people hear me say that doubt never turns down an invitation to a party. That part of ourselves is just sitting on the bench. Used to be a starter. Now sitting on the bench, which is progress, but it's still on the bench. And from time to time, when we break down physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we sometimes find that doubt snuck out on the court and is now playing point guard and calling the plays. It happens to everyone. And I hear that from people because I talk to people who are achieving things at in many ways at the highest levels within their particular profession, within their professional sphere of greatness. And they talk about how that doubt creeps in. And for me, I have it from time to time. I often wonder sometimes no, let's get this right. Sometimes I wonder, clearly not often, about my own stuff, my own things that I'm doing in the world. Do people really hear? Do people really want to listen? Do I really have the ability to impact and inspire people on different levels? Who really wants to hear from me? That doubt kind of just all of a sudden just starts to creep in. Doesn't turn down an invitation to a party. But here's the thing about it, which is really great, is that when you are focused on a level of your own inside game, and look, it's different for everybody. And I work with people and help them and support them in developing their own inside game plan strategy and how to earmark and create times in the day where they have these absolutes each and every day that they're absolutely committed to, that nothing else stands in the way because they really understand the interconnected dynamic between your inside game and your outside game, and how doubt and a lot of other aspects of ourselves that we would probably label as less than desirable will take the opportunity to appear when our guard is down, when we're not feeling well physically, when we're entertaining different types of thoughts that maybe aren't necessarily a reflection of where we're going, but of really, in essence, where we came from. And that's the thing about it, is that once you start to delve into the area of solidifying a solid inside game, you start to recognize when doubt is showing up, because doubt is dated. It's old. It kind of asks old questions that once we hear ourselves asking those questions, we're able to say, oh, that's a reflection of where I once existed. That's a reflection of where I once stood. It's not where I'm at now. It's not where I'm going. Doubt implies that the response that we're looking for, or that we're actually providing, is dated. God, this is something that I used to do. Wow, that's something that I would have said, and I'm hearing myself saying it again. And it's funny because I have I was talking about this with my wife a couple different times. We all have situations in our lives with people that have been in our lives for long periods of time where we lose touch, or we fall out of favor, or we have a disagreement, and you know, and you're no longer talking with people, and everybody just kind of moved on. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. Just sometimes that just happens. And sometimes I'll say, gosh, if I would have knowing the history, like doubt, it's like an old friend. There's a history. There's a familiarity there. There's a sense of literally family. Like I know this feeling. I know this experience in my body, and it may not work anymore, but it's there and it's familiar. And sometimes we have those situations where we go, gosh, if I would have met, if I would meet this person that I've been friends with for all these years that I don't talk to anymore, if I would have met this person today, would I have sought out a friendship or would I seek out a friendship with them? And in many situations, the answer is a resounding no. It's not even a pause to let me think about that. No, it's a no. And it's not because I'm any better than anybody else. I'm not any worse than anybody else. It's just a reflection of where I'm at now. And so you're able to at least identify that what would draw you or still has the potential at times to draw you is that familiarity. Is that sense of like an old friend. This is like an old friend. Like this, I know this person. I know this part of me. I know this aspect of me. I know doubt. I know it. Along with a lot of other experiences that I've had inside my body and inside my head, the ways that I would define things. And doubt is just one of them. So it is always waiting on the sidelines. It is always waiting to get called back into the game. It still wants to play. It still wants to be invited to the party. And a lot of times when people think they're developing an inside game plan, it's like, how do I cut this out of my life? How do I get rid of this once and for all? Like it's a surgical procedure. I'm just going to cut it out and then it's gone. I'm cured. No, that's not how this works. There's always a deeper cut. There's always this growth and learning curve that we always go through and experience. But it's our ability to identify and understand and really grasp that this part of me that is doubtful is always there. It's always there, and that's okay. And so when you understand that your inside game plan is not how to get rid of it, but how to work with it, all of a sudden you start to really grasp what this whole inside game plan is about. Is how to work with those parts of yourselves that from time to time show up, that appear, that are less than favorable, that are less than desirable, but they're there perhaps, I don't know, maybe to teach me something more. To teach us something more that perhaps we weren't ready to get or grasp 6 minutes ago, 6 days ago, 6 months ago, 6 years ago. And now in this moment, we are ready to see that deeper cut. We are ready to understand that on a deeper level. So the inside game is a living, breathing organism on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels that is evolving because we are evolving. Because the commitment to the inside game is that it's ongoing. And that was once perhaps a truth that you were so embedded in. I watched a video of something that I had recorded several years ago talking about my truth. And when I was listening to what I was saying, it's not the truth that I hold today. It has similarities. It has certain things that I can relate to and understand, but it's evolved. Thank God, because I've evolved. So the understanding of the inside game is that you're not extracting this thing like it's a surgical procedure, but you're learning how to work with it. You're learning how to reframe the experience. You're learning how to redefine the experience of doubt. I often talk about it as a way to, and this is a really cool thing for me, is to reassign a new job title to those aspects inside of me that in the past, when they would take over, would wreak havoc in my life. So they still have a voice. They don't get to be in charge, but they get to have a voice. They get to play a supporting role. Because I realize, in essence, if I just shift down a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, a little bit up, a little bit down, and see it slightly differently, all of a sudden doubt can become a voice of reason. that it doesn't just jump off the bench and get back out into the game and start playing and start running things and playing point guard. It doesn't just show up at the party uninvited. It's almost asking permission. Say, hey, I'm seeing something a little bit differently here. For your consideration, perhaps this move that you're considering isn't necessarily the best move. So when I reassign the job title, all of a sudden there's a place for doubt. Because doubt is simply pointing out and reminding me or questioning, have I looked at all the angles? Have I looked at all the things that I need to consider here? And when it works in a supporting way and it works in a supporting role, then all of a sudden the experience is completely different, because then what happens is that then the things that I really want to do, that I really want to be a part of, that I want more of in my life, all of a sudden start speaking to my heart. And this is the bonus. When you get to that place, when they really start speaking to your heart and you really understand the inner dynamics of the inside game and of reframing and reutilizing things from your past that perhaps, like doubt, like fear, like uncertainty, and changing the job title, then all of a sudden what starts to happen is not only are you better able to commit to and connect to things that speak to your heart, but you hear your heart coming back and saying yes. It's that added bonus where your heart is reflecting back to you yes. Because there's no static, there's no interference. A voice of reason, someone raising their hand inside of you to say, excuse me, just a quick question here for your consideration. Have you thought all this through? Now all of a sudden, they're contributing. Who would ever thought the way we've allowed doubt in other aspects of our personality to take over? Who would ever thought that we could actually shift this, reframe it, re-experience where doubt is actually a vital player in our day-to-day? Simply because we gave it a new job title, simply because we started to look, well, what is good about doubt? What are the qualities and the aspects of doubt that allow us to see ourselves in a different way, experience ourselves in a different way, that allow us to keep moving forward with just a raised hand offering up a question or perspective rather than something that's attempting to derail us and find us going backwards? And it's not to say that doubt sometimes doesn't maybe have a few too many drinks at the party and forgets its new job title and starts to take over. That's part of our growth too. But the beauty is we get to identify it, because why? Because we hear doubt asking old questions. Old questions. The implication that it brings to the table and the response that we have to it, the feeling that we have in our body, we are able to identify as old and dated and worn. And as long as we are consistent on our inside game, we're able to identify it faster. And sometimes when we're not, we identify it slower. That's not a crime. The goal, as I always talk about, is never to find yourself in a situation where you're never triggered or upset about something, or that you've healed everything to every extent that you can. No, this is Earth School, baby. Roll up your sleeves. Let's go. The difference is we're not derailed by it. We understand that from time to time. And all we really want to make sure that we're doing is, for the most part, are we cutting the refractory period? Are we cutting the time of I'm upset because to I'm now back in my body? Are we triggered and upset by situations and circumstances less often than perhaps in the past? And are we triggered in that state for a shorter period of time? I had something happen to me the other day where, bam, I got slammed. And I was able to turn something within my own skill set of utilizing the inside game, of utilizing my breath as a tool, by utilizing forgiveness as a tool, by utilizing gratitude as a tool. And I was able to move from I'm upset because back into my body, into the present moment in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I didn't have a stopwatch, but I'm just I'm just telling you, it was fast. And sometimes it's not. Like I said, sometimes doubt shows up at the party, starts slamming back tequila shots. Next thing you know, it's taken over, and you're like, whoa. And maybe it's not 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Maybe it's 2 hours. I can tell you for sure it's not 2 days. That's for sure. But that's that level of commitment that one makes to themselves, that I've chosen to make to myself, which is why I'm so passionate about this level of work. Because it's not just one-sided. I don't sit around and tell people, oh, you just have to do your inside work. No, you have to then take action in the world. You have to raise your frequency, raise your energetic state, take action in the world, and go out and do what speaks to your heart. And because you have that consistency and creating that sustainable inside game, that you're doing things that speak to your heart, and your heart speaks back and says, yes, you're really onto something now. You're really there. There's a coherence between your thoughts and your emotions and your physicality. There's an alignment that's present now as a result, so that you understand that sometimes doubt will appear. And more often than not, because you're fluid on your inside game, it's a hand raised with a question. Excuse me, have you thought about this? Have you really just want to bring something up here? Hoping you're not overlooking something. And then you can say thank you to doubt. Thank you for pointing that out. I hadn't thought of it that way. That makes sense. And I'm still moving forward, but now with some additional information that in the past I wouldn't even have this level of conversation within myself. It would just be a disaster. That's the power of the inside game. That's the power of what happens now once you're in that state and in that place where you're utilizing all of those tools before you go and take the action that's necessary in the world to change the world to the way in which you see yourself fitting into it in a more dynamic level. Doing things that contribute and that speak so generously to your heart, and your heart is fully invested and says yes. Doubt never turns down an invitation to a party. It sits on the sidelines waiting for an opportunity. The question is, are you creating the opportunity for doubt to have something to say? Or are you turning your back? Are you turning your thoughts? You're turning emotions in a direction where doubt then wants to take over and gets a chance to do so. And knowing that happens from time to time, your ability to cut that time period, to cut that refractory period, to cut that down from the distance that one has to travel, shortening that time frame of being triggered by something, because you're able to reframe it and re-experiencing it and reutilize doubt and other aspects like fear and uncertainty and all those things that in the past might have derailed you that are now available to drive you forward. I'm Mitch Newman. We'll see you again next time.